In 2026, we are finally living in the age of the genome. We use DNA to solve cold cases from 40 years ago, to create personalized cancer vaccines, and to edit out hereditary diseases before a child is even born. We treat DNA like a software code we finally learned to read. But for a long time, the person who actually took the picture that allowed us to see that code was treated like a footnote. She was called the Dark Lady of DNA. She was the meticulous genius who held the key to the secret of life, only to have it snatched from her desk while she wasn't looking. This is the story of Rosalind Franklin, the woman whose work is currently traveling to Mars, and whose brilliance is the reason you exist as you are today. Rosalind Franklin didn't like make-believe. As a child, she told her mother she liked reasons and facts. Born into an influential Anglo-Jewish family in London in 1920, she was a prodigy of logic. When World War II broke out, she didn't flee. She became an air raid warden and spent her days researching the physical chemistry of coal. Her work on the porosity of carbon helped create better gas masks for soldiers and more efficient fuel for the war effort. By age 26, she was a world-class physical chemist. She moved to Paris, where she mastered X-ray crystallography, a technique that uses X-rays to peer into the invisible atomic structure of matter. She was a master of the invisible. In 1951, Rosalind was recruited to King's College London to study a mysterious molecule called DNA. At the time, scientists knew DNA was important, but they had no idea what it looked like. Was it a spiral? A triple helix? A ladder? Rosalind was a perfectionist. She spent months perfecting the humidity of her samples, pulling DNA fibers into tiny, hair-thin threads. But the environment at King's was toxic. Due to a massive administrative blunder, her colleague Maurice Wilkins thought she was hired to be his assistant. Rosalind, a PhD with years of international experience, knew she was his equal. They barely spoke. While the men at the college ate in a private dining room, Rosalind was barred from entering because of her gender. She was an outsider in her own lab. In May 1952, after 100 hours of X-ray exposure and weeks of mathematical calculations, Rosalind and her student, Raymond Gosling, produced Photo 51. To an untrained eye, it looks like a blurry cross. To a crystallographer, it was a mathematical proof. The X shape meant one thing: a double helix. Rosalind didn't rush to publish. She wanted to be 100% sure. She wanted her data to be perfect. But while she was checking her math, the world was moving behind her back. Without Rosalind's knowledge or permission, Maurice Wilkins showed Photo 51 to James Watson. Watson later admitted that when he saw the photo, his mouth fell open and his pulse began to race. That photo provided the exact measurements Watson and Crick needed to build their famous model. They also obtained an internal report of hers through a colleague, which gave them the crucial chemical data she had spent years gathering. In 1953, they published their paper in Nature. Rosalind was invited to publish a supporting paper, but it was positioned to look like her work simply confirmed their brilliant guess. She was never told that her photo was the foundation of their discovery. Fed up with the atmosphere at King's, Rosalind moved to Birkbeck College. She left DNA behind and turned her X-ray eyes toward viruses. She did groundbreaking work on the tobacco mosaic virus and began the first-ever structural studies of the polio virus. She proved that RNA, the messenger molecule, was a single strand, a discovery that is the direct ancestor of the mRNA vaccine technology we used to save millions during the COVID-19 pandemic. But time was running out. In 1958, at the age of 37, Rosalind Franklin died of ovarian cancer, likely exacerbated by her years of unprotected exposure to X-rays. 4 years later, Watson, Crick, and Wilkins were awarded the Nobel Prize. Because the Nobel is not awarded posthumously, Rosalind was not included. For decades, she was remembered only as the difficult woman in Watson's memoir. But in 2026, the narrative has flipped. We often think of history as a list of winners. But history is actually a map of those who saw what others couldn't. Rosalind Franklin didn't need a Nobel Prize to know she was right. She saw the X. She saw the spiral. She saw the blueprint of every living thing on this planet. As we look toward Mars and deep into our own selves in 2026, we are finally seeing Rosalind Franklin clearly. She wasn't a footnote. She was the architect.